Hello and welcome to Steve's Backyard Bonsai. Today I'm going to be pruning this fluff mop, also known as my Dawn Redwood forest. Well, the first observation I have with this forest is that it is growing well. You know, there are weeds that I have to deal with, there's moss that I have to deal with, but it is growing well. The realization that I'm making is that if I want to grow these trees in a natural style, it may be impossible in a forest setting. And the reason I say that is because a lot of these branches are just developing now, and while I want to develop this in the natural style, they are not hard enough to grow at the 35 to 45 degree angle up from the trunk because of the weight that's on them and the restrictions that you have in when you can prune. You can't prune these until later in the year, although you can selectively branch prune now. So some of the branches that I have pruned, if you can see this branch right here, is growing up. And I kept that because that is the natural style of the tree. But there weren't many branches left on the tree after it lost all its foliage, and some of this stuff is just hanging by a thread that I will be cutting off in this pruning. And I'm just going to start by doing that. Here's a branch that I would want to save, but there's another branch coming from the exact same spot that doesn't need to be there. And with this being my most prominent, or one of my most prominent trees, I probably don't want branches starting until this height. So these that are growing down, I definitely don't want. And here's one I hoped would be a branch that would survive, and it did survive, but it didn't send out anything real good. I'm going to clean up this stub and take off one more branch, and I am going to be trimming closer to the tree. Is that a good location for my first branch on a main tree? It would have been. So I'm going to leave it because I've got a year at least invested in it. This one in the back I'll take off. I have another one coming from this same exact spot here that I'll take off. And another one that's growing up but at an odd angle for the tree. In other words, it's not bad, but it goes into the forest. This has a branch that seems like a good extension of that branch if I could train it in this direction. The problem is I'm not seeing any buds, and that's one of my restrictions. You've got to be able to see buds on the branch. See, the rule is that the branch needs to have reddened. It needs to have bifurcated. Now, it hasn't really reddened, but it has bifurcated. So if I wanted this to be my surviving branch, I've got to wait because there are no buds, which is the third element in what you're looking for. Now, at some point, there will be buds. As a matter of fact, I see a bud here. This branch has not started to redden. And when I say redden, if you look at this, you can see that this green growth, which is all this season, has started to redden at the bottom. but these are not branches per se, they are leaves, they are compound leaves. So if you cut them off before the tree decides it's going to be a branch, you're asking for trouble. But there are buds on the main stem. And I do see buds on a branch like this. Where to start? You know, the common wisdom would be to start at the bottom, which I've done. And I probably will keep this bifurcation, but cut it shorter when I can. So I'm going to use this opportunity to take this branch off, which is growing from the same spot, and I'm going to maintain this branch, and I'm going to want to hopefully cut it back way far once I can. Now I mentioned I could see buds here. This is so risky. Perhaps I should start with the height and work my way down. No buds visible up here, but there are buds on the main stem. So if I could choose a leader on every one of these trees and determine my height, I think the heights should be here for the highest trees. And I think I'd safely be able to cut this back. I can on this one because I can actually see buds. Can I see a bud there? I do see a bud. So I'm going to cut this one back here, this one back to here. And this is 2 leaders off the same tree, so I'm probably going to look at it again and try and see which one of them I want to maintain as my leader. I'd have to cut this tree way back to here to keep this one as my leader. So I'm going to opt to cut this one shorter, and hopefully it becomes a main branch. First, I'm going to clean up the top of this tree, the current top. And I'm going to cut this other leader short. And hopefully something will develop there. Okay, now we're working height. So I cut it back to here. See if I can get a closer view of this one tree. It's so hard to see. I had cut this tree back to here initially. It sent up another leader, and I cut it back to here. It sent up 2 leaders, which I've now chosen one as the leader. So to clean this up, I've got a branch coming out here. Here's a branch that I hoped would develop that didn't, so I'm going to take that right off. Here's another branch that I hoped would develop, so I'm going to take that right off. And frankly, I still don't know enough about what this tree wants to do, whether it wants to live in a forest. But with the indicators that I have, it would seem that it does not. But I'm undeterred. Here's another branch that started to grow. And this tree could do the exact same thing again. But as long as it stays alive, I'm happy. Okay, working down the tree on the branches that are on it. Here's a branch. It's not coming out radially from the tree, but it is extending upward. And I do see the tiniest buds forming there. But is there something coming from there? I mean, I could wire it more radial, but I don't really want to. The tree grows up and then the tips bend down. An older growth Dawn Redwood grows like that. I'm also going to be clearing out old needles because I do see buds, and I'm pulling up to release them. This one I only see buds. There's no branches. There's no leaves on it. Now doing this, I don't seem to be harming those buds that I see. I'm going to leave that. It's probably going to die back to there. The wounds are healing over. I'm trying to determine what to do here. I do see a bud there, so I'm going to take that off. I'm going to take the upper part off. And this is risky. This is very risky. There are 10 trees in this forest. There were 11. I've been growing others in pots. But the way these trees grow, I'm pretty sure I want to leave space between them. All right, so what else do I have? I have this branch growing up behind. It's good. Do I see any buds on it? Oh. Not really. But, you know, I've done it the rules way a couple of times, and I haven't gotten what I want. What happens if I break the rules and cut it now? I don't think the tree is going to die. Okay, so I've got 2 branches, 3 staggered type branches. What happens a little lower down? I've got another branch, and I do see buds here. This is a branch I was bemoaning earlier. And by the way, I was getting eaten alive by mosquitoes until I turned on my thermocell, and now they're gone. So I could not be a better spokesperson for thermocell. Now the branches are longer in a naturally growing tree at the base, and they grow up, you know, pretty high. I'm hoping with the removal of the weight on them that they'll start to grow more vertical. That is the natural habit. So this tree only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 branches. You know what? I am going to break rules. I've got a lot of growing season left. Now, if I clear away the underbrush, you know, there are some things that I'm going to want to cut back, but I'm unwilling to do that just now. There are a lot of things that I am going to cut back to. But I've extended the height beyond last year, but only by 2 inches. This is going to be a very hard forest to keep small. But I'm going to move on to the tree next to it. Now this branch is very tenuous here, but I don't want to lose it. It's almost ripped off. And it's got no buds showing. So all I can really do here is cut it back. I'm going to cut this side off, and I'm going to shorten this side, reducing some of the weight on this branch, and hopefully that'll be good. Here I've got 2 branches coming from the same spot. This one is very healthy, and it has bifurcated. It's only begun to redden, but I'm going to take the top one off. I'm going to take this back to here, and I may lose that branch. Anything good down low? This branch seemed promising right here. That's last year's growth. I'll take the stub off the end of that. And if I prune this to the bifurcation, it's way out here. I'm going to apologize to Candace from Bonsai Science because I'm just feeling my way with this species, and the rules don't seem to apply. I'm going to let that grow. Here's another branch I thought was promising. It has sent out sub-branches, but they're not going in very good directions. I'm going to take this guy right off at the base and see what happens there. In terms of height and the fact that it has 2 leaders, if I go to here, I'm still below that one. And the leader in the back, and I'm just going to take that one off. Sorry, I cut this one down to here, and I'm going to take the one in the back out completely. And seal those main cuts up. Now I mentioned that I don't have many options for seeing Dawn Redwoods growing in the wild here. But there are a couple of houses in the neighborhood that do have, and I mean a couple, that do have Dawn Redwoods. Here's a branch that's reddened. I don't see large buds, but there might be nascent buds that I'm just going to cut to. Yeah, so I found another Dawn Redwood growing in the neighborhood this morning. It's the tallest one I've ever seen. I never noticed it before. But I was able to look at the trunk. The tree has to be at least 80 to 100 feet tall. It dwarfs everything else around it. I'm going to cut this branch to a little bifurcation there. So I looked at the branch structure, and it does seem that the natural growing pattern is, as I said. I'm going to take this branch off. The natural growing pattern is, as I said, growing up and in a flame shape. But I really don't think I'm going to get there with bonsai. This one's coming out at you. I'm going to take that lump off the trunk. Here's one that I thought was going to be a good branch, and it sent out two very small, very weak branches. There's a little one growing here. I'm trying to follow each branch up. This is like a group of feathers. I'll try and pick the best one. Little branch there. This has something growing out of the bottom. You know, this thinning out exercise is going to help me visualize what's going on here. All right, so the ones I've selected, this has one coming off to the side. There's one below it that I'll keep, but can I shorten it? Probably not, but I'm going to anyway. I'm still experimenting with this tree and what it does, or what it wants to do. Here's one coming out the back that's kind of leaning down. I think if I take the weight off of it, it'll start to migrate up. At least I hope so. Taking the wispies out of here and the old leaves or needles. And in case you don't know, Dawn Redwood is a deciduous conifer, meaning it loses its needles each year and grows a whole new set, but it loses its leaves as well. So these will all fall off, and some of these that you're going to want to be branches, the tree thinks are leaves, and you'll lose those too. But, you know, maybe if I'm lucky, I'll have more this year than I had last year. I'm going to take this one back further. It'll probably die. And this one back. I'll shorten these. And I may have also said that I'm not going to do this either, but like I said, I'm trying to figure this tree out, meaning this species of tree. All right, I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to hit this forest in time lapse and see where I am at the end. All right, so here's the forest all pruned up. I don't want to say that I went further than I wanted to because I have to see what happens when you prune out more than the rules allow you to. And these rules aren't hard and fast. They are from people who are working on these trees, just like I am, and you really want to take their advice. But if up until now the advice has been frustrating, you might want to try something else, which is what I'm doing. And that is pruning before I think it's wise to prune, because I haven't experimented with what happens if you do this and what happens if you do that. Other people may have, and I may lose branches because of it. But you can now see the forest and all the trees. I have a bit of an asymmetrical triangle starting here, and it does go down precipitously in the rear. I'm going to take that off as well. And like I say, I may lose branches, but it will be a learning experience.